January 8th, 2026. South China Sea. USS Abraham Lincoln conducting live fire exercises. Phalanx Sea Whiz systems hammering targets. Standard operations. Another day in the Pacific. Then, the secure line from Compact Fleet rings on the bridge. New orders, new mission, new theater. Pack up, move out, sprint to the Persian Gulf. Not next week, now. Here's what makes that call critical. The Navy operates 11 aircraft carriers. But looking at the map, the Pentagon realized they were running out of options. USS George Washington is in Yokosuka, Japan. She is nearly 3,000 miles to the north, too far away to respond in time. USS Theodore Roosevelt just finished a maintenance availability. Fresh, ready, all systems green. USS Gerald R. Ford is the most advanced warship ever built, but she is currently locked in a standoff off the coast of Venezuela. But the Pentagon didn't send any of them. They sent Lincoln. Why? What crisis in the Middle East is worth abandoning the Pacific? What makes this specific carrier worth the strategic gamble? The answer comes down to two things: Iran and the F-35C. Because in January 2026, the Middle East isn't just tense, it is about to explode. And Washington needs a carrier that can execute a day-one strike to penetrate Iranian air defenses. Only Lincoln, with its future air wing, can do that. This is the story of the sprint. If you want to understand how American naval strategy actually works, type "proud" in the comments. Welcome to Navy Decoded. This is why they sent Lincoln. To understand why Lincoln, you have to look past the hull number and see the operational record. USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN 72, fifth ship of the Nimitz class. The motto stamped on every bulkhead: shall not perish. For 35 years, that hasn't been a slogan, it has been a promise. 295 consecutive days at sea. Let me say that again, 295 days. No port calls, no maintenance breaks, just sustained operations in 2020. China's carriers? 90 days maximum before they need to refuel and resupply. Russia's Kuznetsov? Hasn't left port in 3 years. Caught fire at the pier, still broken. Britain's Queen Elizabeth? 6-month deployments, standard. Lincoln did 10 months straight. And the crew didn't just survive it, they maintained full operational tempo. Flight operations 24/7. Combat readiness at 100%. That is not endurance. That is dominance. But the ship operating today isn't the ship that launched in 1989. Between 2013 and 2017, the Navy invested $3 billion in a complete rebuild. They call it RCOH, refueling and complex overhaul. Picture this: 4 years in dry dock. Technicians cut the ship open. They pull the nuclear cores. They rip out every wire, every pipe, every outdated system. Then, they rebuild it. New reactors, fiber optics where copper used to run, sensors that didn't exist when the ship was designed. Most critical? Lincoln became the first Nimitz-class carrier modified specifically for the F-35C Lightning II. Not just compatible, optimized. Reinforced jet blast deflectors to handle the heat. Classified briefing rooms built right into the hull. Systems that let stealth fighters do things other platforms can't support. The ship that emerged wasn't a renovation, it was a transformation. 5th-generation capability inside a proven hull. And crucial for this 2026 mission? Combat-proven. 18 months ago, the Lincoln was in the Red Sea. Iranian-backed Houthi forces launched anti-ship ballistic missiles at commercial vessels. Real missiles, real targets, real consequences. This crew shot them down. Multiple intercepts, under actual combat conditions. So when the orders came to sprint from the Pacific to the Persian Gulf, this wasn't theoretical. This was the crew that already knows what incoming fire looks like on an Aegis radar scope. 2 Westinghouse A4W nuclear reactors power the Lincoln. Unlimited range. The carrier covered 4,500 nautical miles in 8 days, without slowing for fuel. But speed is just the delivery method. The real weapon is parked on the flight deck. Carrier Air Wing 9, CVW-9. 75 aircraft. The centerpiece? Marine Fighter Attack Squadron 314, VMFA 314, Black Knights. 10 F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters. Most channels stop at the jet numbers, but here on Navy Decoded, we look at the kill chain. But in 2026, stealth isn't a magic cloak. Iran knows this. That is why they integrated the Rezonans-NE radar system into their air defense network. This is a very high-frequency, VHF, over-the-horizon radar. Standard targeting radars operate on short wavelengths, X-band. Stealth aircraft are shaped to deflect those waves. The Rezonans-NE operates on metric wavelengths. Physics dictates that when a radio wave matches the physical dimensions of an aircraft's tail or wing, it creates resonance. In theory, this allows Iranian commanders to detect the presence of an F-35C from hundreds of miles away. So, on paper, the stealth advantage seems compromised. But detection is not the same as targeting. The Rezonans-NE can tell Tehran something is there. It provides azimuth and range, but it lacks the precision to guide a missile. To shoot, they need to hand off the target to high-frequency engagement radars, like the ones on the S-300. And that is the exact moment the U.S. Navy's kill chain activates. Enter Electronic Attack Squadron 133, VAQ-133, the Wizards. They fly the EA-18G Growler. For this specific deployment, they are fielding the ALQ-249 next-generation jammer. This isn't just noise barrage. This is a digital, directed energy attack. The ALQ-249 isolates the specific frequencies of the Rezonans-NE and the S-300 fire control radars. It floods them with false targets and digital noise. Here is the operational reality. The Rezonans-NE detects a disturbance. It attempts to cue the S-300 fire control radar. The EA-18G Growlers jam the communication link and blind the fire control radar instantly. The Iranian operators are left with a low-resolution contact, but no firing solution. Meanwhile, the F-35Cs are passive. They don't emit radar. They use their sensors to triangulate the location of the Rezonans-NE based on its own emissions. The hunter becomes the prey. The F-35C pilots designate the coordinates. They can engage with standoff weapons, JSOW, or guide missiles from the destroyers. The Rezonans-NE is neutralized not by magic, but by superior electronic warfare integration. Once the radar network is degraded, the Super Hornets provide the strike mass. 3 squadrons: VFA-14, VFA-41, VFA-151. 36 aircraft carrying over 600,000 pounds of ordnance. They strike the static infrastructure, command centers, missile sites, and naval bases that are now blind. This is the concept of networked lethality. It is not about one plane being invisible. It is about the entire air wing dismantling the enemy's ability to complete a kill chain. And managing this entire operation from 300 miles away, E-2D Advanced Hawkeye. The ANAPY-9 radar tracks targets at 300 miles, manages over 1,000 contacts simultaneously. It is air traffic control for modern warfare, coordinates 75 aircraft, directs combat air patrol, controls the entire air wing from one platform. This isn't air superiority. This is air dominance so complete, the adversary can't effectively contest it. But 75 aircraft mean nothing if the carrier gets sunk. That is where the defensive network comes in. 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers escort Lincoln. Together, they create a defensive bubble that makes Iranian anti-ship missiles tactically irrelevant. These ships carry nearly 300 vertical launch system cells, VLS. Each cell holds a different missile depending on what the mission requires. For Middle East deployment, the loadout emphasizes 3 capabilities: Tomahawk cruise missiles, BGM-109, range exceeding 1,000 miles, launch from the Gulf of Oman, hit command centers in Tehran. Precision guidance, minimal collateral damage. SM-3 ballistic missile interceptors, designed to shoot down Iranian missiles in mid-course phase, hitting a bullet with a bullet in space. SM-6 dual-role missiles, long-range air defense and anti-ship capability, engage aircraft or target fast attack boats. The Aegis combat system ties everything together. All 3 destroyers share radar data in real time. They call it Cooperative Engagement Capability, CEC. One ship's radar can guide another ship's missile, creates overlapping coverage. 300 interceptors that can shoot from anywhere in the formation. Iran's strategy relies on overwhelming American defenses. Launch hundreds of missiles, deploy dozens of fast attack boats, saturate the system through sheer numbers. Aegis was designed for this scenario. Here's what happens. Iranian coastal batteries launch 50 missiles, all at once, trying to overwhelm the defenses. 3 seconds after launch, the Aegis system classifies every threat, calculates trajectories, prioritizes based on speed and impact probability, assigns interceptors automatically. The destroyers start firing. SM-3s climb, accelerate past Mach 4. At 100,000 feet, the kinetic warheads separate. They don't need explosives. Kinetic energy alone is enough. 40 Iranian missiles disappear from the scope. Intercepted, destroyed. 10 are still flying. Maybe, if the guidance systems work, if the Americans miss them. And the cost for launching that salvo? Every radar that turned on gets marked for destruction. Every launch site gets targeted. Every command bunker that gave the order gets erased. For 10 missiles that might penetrate the defense, Iran loses its entire coastal network in one night. That is not deterrence through threats. That is deterrence through math. Iranian planners understand the equation, and every day they choose to do nothing. January 18, 2026. The Strait of Malacca, one of the most monitored waterways on Earth. Lincoln enters the strait. Standard security procedures. Darkened ship. Minimal lighting. Reduced emissions. But you can't hide 97,000 tons of steel moving at 25 knots. Not in a strait where commercial traffic is bumper to bumper. An Iranian cargo vessel appeared. Ship name, Arvin. Course, Shanghai to Bandar Abbas. And it is matching the carrier's speed. Exactly. 2 miles off the starboard side. The watch officer reports it. Everyone on the bridge knows what is happening. That merchant ship is recording everything. Photographing aircraft, timing the escort pattern. In 12 hours, this intelligence will be in Tehran. Revolutionary Guard commanders will have the complete picture. They'll know the air wing composition, the escort strength, the estimated arrival time. Pentagon's response? Nothing. No countermeasures, no intercept. This was deliberate. Because Iran needed to see what was coming. They needed their military planners to sit in a room, review the data, and do the math. 1 carrier, 3 destroyers, 75 aircraft. Nuclear-powered, combat-proven. Stealth fighters. The calculation writes itself. Deterrence isn't about secrecy. It is about demonstrating capability so overwhelming that escalation becomes pointless. Iran saw everything, reported everything, and chose to do nothing. That is victory, without a shot fired. Strait of Hormuz, 21 miles wide. Geopolitically, this is the world's most critical choke point. 21 million barrels of oil pass through here daily. That is roughly 20% of global consumption. For decades, Iran has developed a strategy known as A2AD, Anti-Access Area Denial. The goal is simple. In the event of conflict, make this strait impassable. They have positioned thousands of ballistic and cruise missiles along the coast. They utilize swarms of fast attack boats for asymmetric warfare. They can deploy naval mines to freeze global shipping. This is a formidable, layered defense network designed to impose unacceptable costs on any navy attempting to force entry. However, the deployment of the USS Abraham Lincoln fundamentally alters this strategic calculus. It shifts the dynamic from area denial to sea control. Why? Because the Lincoln Carrier Strike Group brings capabilities that specifically counter the A2AD doctrine. Iran's strategy relies on 2 things: concealment, hiding their launchers, and saturation, firing everything at once. The Lincoln's air wing dismantles both pillars. First, countering concealment. The F-35C Lightning II is not just a striker, it is an intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance (ISR) platform. Operating inside the contested airspace, these stealth aircraft can detect and map mobile missile batteries and coastal radar sites without being tracked. They deny Iran the element of surprise. If Tehran prepares to launch, the US Navy likely knows the grid coordinates before the first missile fires. Second, countering saturation. The strike group provides a deep strike option. In a hypothetical escalation, American commanders do not need to wait for Iran to close the strait. With the data from F-35Cs and E-2D Hawkeyes, the Super Hornets can execute precision strikes against the source of the threat, the command nodes and launch sites inland, rather than just intercepting missiles over the water. This creates a strategic dilemma for Tehran. If they attempt to close the Hormuz Strait, they reveal the location of their most valuable strategic assets. Once those assets engage, they become visible. Once they are visible, the Lincoln's air wing can neutralize them. The cost of closing the strait for a few days could be the permanent degradation of their entire coastal defense infrastructure. This is the definition of deterrence by denial. It convinces the adversary that their objective is unachievable, or that the cost exceeds any potential gain. The Lincoln is not there to start a war. It is there to prove that a war cannot be won by closing the strait. It forces Iranian planners to look at the math. They retain the capability to disrupt shipping, yes, but they lack the capability to survive the counterstrike that follows. So the oil continues to flow, not because the threat has vanished, but because the counterweight, sitting just over the horizon, is heavy enough to keep the scale balanced. 21 million barrels a day, guaranteed not by treaties, but by operational capacity. So, why Lincoln? Why did the Pentagon choose this specific hull, this specific crew to answer the call? It wasn't random. It was a calculation based on trust. When the stability of the global economy hangs by a thread, you don't send a trainee. You don't send a ship that might be ready. You send the veteran. The Navy looked at the board and saw only one option. The only carrier that combines the eyes of the Marine F-35C stealth squadrons with the fist of a crew that has already shot down hostile missiles in the Red Sea. They chose the ship that spent 4 years and $3 billion being rebuilt for this exact moment. A ship that has proven it can stay at sea for 295 days without breaking. Lincoln wasn't just available, she was engineered for this threat. Her motto is, "Shall not perish." For 35 years, that phrase has been written on the hull, but today, in the Persian Gulf, it means something more. It means the global supply chain shall not perish. It means freedom of navigation shall not perish. The next time you fill up your car or see a flight take off, remember why that is possible. It is not luck. It is because 5,000 Americans, all volunteers, are standing watch on 4.5 acres of sovereign territory halfway across the world. They are operating the most complex machine ever built in the most dangerous waters on Earth so that you can sleep soundly tonight. That is the American guarantee. Presence is the deterrent. Capability is the proof. And the USS Abraham Lincoln is the reason the line holds. If this analysis gave you a new perspective on American naval power, you belong here on Navy Decoded. Hit subscribe for the next videos.